All right, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So happy to be here, giving you all the breakdown of the local sports in and around the Chattahoochee Valley, and I'll talk a little bit about national sports. On the show today, I'm going to have my college football playoff reaction. Did the committee get it right? I will break down the matchups and which team has the easiest path to get to Atlanta. We will also break down the high school football games, as we've got one team here in the Chattahoochee Valley that has punched their ticket to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I will get into that. I'll get into high school basketball. We've got my NFL reaction. The Falcons, 4 straight games. It's over. I'm saying it. The season's over. They need to bench Kirk Cousins and they need to start Michael Penix Jr. I just feel this way, and I will get into that as well. All right. Had a very fun weekend. Georgia Alabama Sports Live was there live at Otis Spencer Stadium. Probably our best high school game day that we have done. Carver taking on Appling County in the semifinals. Once again, hosting a semifinal. And Carver, they completely dominate the game, 49-6 over Appling County. And guess what? The Carver Tigers are in the state championship for the first time since 2021, trying to win their first state championship since 2006, or 2007 rather. And Carver just looked incredible in this game. We had high school game day. We interviewed Coach Pierre Coffey. We had Jeremy Hayes on as a guest picker. He went to Appling County. We had a halftime show where we interviewed Jack Patterson and Anson Hunley. It was just a great event, huge crowd. I mean, we had a lot more fans from Appling County than Carver. Still a lot of fans from Carver because it is Otis Spencer Stadium. It's a very big high school football stadium, and it looked like there was a lot of empty seats, and rightfully so. It was an empty stadium, but there were still a lot of fans there for a night that was as cold as it was. But still, the Carver Tigers are going to the state championship where they will take on Burke County, and that will happen on Tuesday, December the 17th at 4 o'clock. All right, let me go ahead and break down all the champions in Alabama. Thompson won it last Wednesday against Central, 21-7. Parker in 6A defeats Saraland 28-17. 5A champion is Montgomery Catholic. Jackson ended up defeating Cherokee County 69-6 in the 4A state championship. Mars Hill Bible is your 3A champion. Reeltown is your 2A champion, and Wadley is your 1A champion. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other games that happened as the season just came to an end for the LaGrange Grangers as they were trying to get back to the state championship for the first time since 2004. They fell short to Jefferson. They were down 21-7. They got a touchdown. They cut it to 21-13, and then Malachi Fanning Render in the back of the end zone. I'm going to say it was a catch. Kevin Eckelberry has shared that video. I've seen some other people share it. It shows that his feet were in bounds when he caught the ball. That would have cut the lead to 2, and LaGrange would have an opportunity to go for 2. But LaGrange, they fall short. It was ruled an incomplete pass, and Jefferson wins the game to advance to the state championship. What a great season, though, for Coach Matt Napier and the LaGrange Grangers. But I seriously thought that was a touchdown catch, a pass from Dylan Barber to Malachi Fanning Render in the back of the end zone. But to be fair, it's a bang play. It's tough. The ref did not have a good angle, and I think that refs are human. It's tough to make a call in that position, but they got it wrong. It was the wrong call because he was clearly in bounds. He made the catch, and it would have been 21-19 with a chance for LaGrange to go for 2. But that's how LaGrange's season ends. Malachi Fanning Render has had an incredible high school career, and he's going to be playing on Saturdays. And what a season for the LaGrange Grangers. Another team that was trying to get back to the state championship was Manchester. Manchester falls to Brooks County at home in overtime, and Brooks County is going on to face the 2-time state champion Bowden. And Manchester, with everything that they had to endure this season, with the tragic deaths of the 2 football players, one the night before the state championship last year, one in the off season during prom. It was absolutely devastating. But head coach DeMonta Prather rallied this team to get to the state championship. And I believe Manchester's are winners in my book. Just what they had to endure last year, playing in the state championship after having a player tragically shot, and then playing in the state championship, it showed incredible will and endurance and resilience from this team. And, the healing process has just been going through the entire off season. And I just pray for Manchester and their family and just that community. But, they have really endured a lot, and they've had a fantastic season making it to the semifinals. All right, I'm going to break down the matchups in Georgia. Let's start with the 6A championship. You got Grayson, who beat Douglas County, taking on Carrollton. What a matchup. Carrollton was able to beat Buford in the semifinal. This game will take place December the 18th, 7 o'clock at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The 5A state championship. You got Langston Hughes taking on Milton. Milton trying to go back-to-back. They won a state championship in 7A last year. There is no more 7A. The reclassification has bumped them down to 5A. This will be played on December the 17th at 7 o'clock at the Benz. The 4A state championship. It's Marist and North Oconee. That's going to be on Monday, December the 16th, 7 o'clock at the Benz. The 3A state championship, it's Jefferson and Calhoun. And that will be played on the 18th at 4 o'clock. And then the 2A state championship. I've already requested for Georgia Alabama Sports Live to get media credentials. I'm hoping that I'm there at the Benz covering this game along with Thrift Behringer. The Carver Tigers and Burke County. That's going to be December the 17th at 4 o'clock. The 1A division, the 1A1 championship is Northeast from Macon taking on Toombs County. That's going to be December the 17th at 1 o'clock. And then the 1A Class 2 state championship is Bowden, trying to go for a three-peat, taking on Brooks County on December the 16th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the private bracket is going to be December the 18th at 1 o'clock. It's Prince Avenue Christian taking on Hebron Christian. So the flag football championships will take place. The Division I flag football championships will take place December the 16th at 12 o'clock. Division II is going to take place December the 16th at 2 o'clock. And then we have Division III on the 17th taking place at 11 o'clock in the morning. And same with on the 18th, the Division IV flag football championship is going to be at 11 o'clock in the morning. So we're going to have all the championships wrapped up, and high school football in 2 weeks will be officially done for the regular season. We still have an all-star game, though. That's going to be put on by the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That's going to be on December the 21st. So we do have some local teams that are still alive in the quarterfinals for the Division I flag football. Harris County, who got that walk-off win over Hebron Christian last week, is going to be facing Southeast Bullock in Statesboro on the road. Columbus is hosting Washington County, 6 o'clock at Kinnett Stadium, and that is going to be great on Monday. And so check that out as Columbus trying to get back to the state championship. All right. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way, and let's talk about the college football playoff. So before I get into the college football playoff, we had some conference championships over the weekend that really had an impact on who was going to get into the college football playoff. I don't know who you were rooting for, but let's start with the Mountain West Championship that happened on Friday. I gave UNLV a slight chance to win this. I thought if UNLV would have beat Boise State, they would get the 12 seed. Boise State not only wins the game, but it drops UNLV in the rankings by 4 spots. Boise State, because they were ranked 10th, they jump up to 9. And because they were the highest ranked in a conference, even though they're in a group of 4, a group of 5 conference, they're not in a Power 4 conference, they're in a group of 5 conference, they get the 3 seed. So a big win there. The Big 12 championship took place in Dallas at noon, and Arizona State, they were projected to finish last in the Big 12. This was an incredible performance by the Arizona State Sun Devils, and Cam Scatabo, which I think he should be getting some votes for the Heisman Trophy, had an incredible, outstanding game as he ended up having, looking at his stats, 3 rushing touchdowns. What an incredible game for Cam Scatabo. How about that? And Arizona State's going to be the 4 seed. I'll get into the bracket, and then I'm going to make my predictions. Let's talk about that Georgia-Texas game. This was an all-timer. First SEC game to go into overtime. First SEC championship to go into overtime, rather. As Georgia was down 6-3. Carson Beck gets hurt in the first half. In comes Gunnar Stockton in the second half. Leads Georgia with a long, sustainable drive. How about Trevor Etienne? He was injured for 3 games, and he ended up having 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. Gunnar Stockton, he wasn't perfect. He did throw that interception. That was a head-scratcher. But Georgia rushed Quinn Ewers again, and I actually thought Texas was going to make the adjustments, and I thought that maybe that they were going to win this game. And there were times where I thought Texas was going to win this game. They were down 16-13. Quinn Ewers with the ball, and I seriously thought that Texas was going to get a touchdown. I mean, Quinn Ewers, when he had time, got his receivers open, and I thought that Texas could have easily won this game, but Georgia's defense kept him out of the end zone, held them to field goals. And you look at DeAndre Moore's pass, the 41-yarder from Quinn Ewers to tie it up at 13. And then Georgia, Dalen Everett with 2 interceptions. Dalen Everett, I thought he sealed it when Texas was down 16-13. Dalen Everett got the interception. And if Georgia scores a touchdown here, the game's over. But then Gunnar Stockton throws an interception. I'm like, what are you thinking? I seriously thought Gunnar Stockton lost the game for Georgia. Now the big question is, so Georgia won, that they are definitely in the college football playoff. Personally, I thought that the committee would look at Georgia like they did with Florida State last year when Jordan Travis went down with the injury. Well, number one, Georgia has proven that Gunnar Stockton, who was a 5-star quarterback, who has been in the weightings, when he came in for garbage time, he actually looked pretty impressive. He's a dual threat quarterback. He is more than capable of leading the Georgia Bulldogs to a national championship. Just look at Cardale Jones in Ohio State back in 2014. That's a prime example. But what a game. First overtime game in the SEC championship. Georgia wins it on a walk-off touchdown by Trevor Etienne. And Gunnar Stockton actually proved that he can play. And we don't know how long Carson Beck's going to be out, but I think that Georgia is actually, in a good position as I get to the bracket real soon. I just want to go through these other games. Oregon gets the number 1 seed after beating Penn State 45-37. This game was a little bit more closer because Drew Allard was able to rally Penn State back. But I think that this was one of those games where, Penn State, favorable. They could have easily won this game. But Oregon, the only team in college football to finish the regular season and the conference championships undefeated. But if you look at the college football playoff bracket, Oregon does not have a very good favorable side of the bracket. And then this game, Clemson was in control. And throughout the night, I thought that Clemson is going to knock SMU out of the college football playoff consideration because I felt like they were going to blow them out. And when they were up 31-14 in the fourth quarter, it was Roderick Daniels that led SMU back to tie it at 31. And Clemson, Nolan Hauser needed a walk-off 56-yard field goal to win the ACC championship, another ACC championship. This was the only way that Clemson could get in after having a disappointing loss in the regular season to your in-state rival, South Carolina, at home. Clemson was able to get the job done, beating SMU to win the ACC. And the big question leading into Selection Sunday, does this loss knock SMU out of the college football playoff? 11-2, pretty decent resume. They haven't really beaten anybody. They haven't beaten a top 25 team. Had a pretty easy schedule, but I think that SMU, undefeated in conference play leading up to the conference championship, that's got to show for something. And I think that the committee got this right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket. All right, as you can see, Oregon is number 1, Georgia number 2. Boise State and Arizona State both get first-round byes. And we've got first-round matchups next week. Oh, these are going to be so exciting. I cannot wait for these matchups. Let's start with Friday night. Friday night, we've got the Battle of Indiana. Indiana taking on Notre Dame. Notre Dame is an 8-point favorite. That's going to be on ESPN. Saturday, the noon game, SMU and Penn State. Yes, SMU got into the college football playoff over Alabama. And Clemson taking on Texas at 4 o'clock. And then the primetime game at the Horseshoe. It's Tennessee, Ohio State. Cannot wait for these matchups. I am excited just because, this is really the first time that we've ever seen anything like this. The 12-team college football playoff. It makes for that weekend leading up to Christmas that we're not getting like the Car Care Bowl or the Boca Raton Bowl. And it's not a knock on those bowls. It's not a knock on those bowl games. But this is what we have been waiting for. This makes these games awesome. I mean, I was hoping that SMU would play Texas. I wanted to see that matchup. But we got Indiana, Notre Dame. We got the Battle of Indiana. I mean, how incredible is that? Tennessee and Ohio State. Ohio State, which was the best team in college football, in my opinion, after they lost to Michigan, now has to prove themselves against that up-tempo offense and Josh Heupel. But this is going to be a road game. This could have easily been a home game for Tennessee at Neyland. But SMU, I don't know. We'll find out how good SMU is because Penn State could end up blowing them out. I know that Alabama has an argument for making the college football playoff. But SMU should not be punished for losing their conference championship. And the way they did, I mean, it was a very close game. Now, if SMU lost in a blowout, I could see a scenario where Alabama jumps over. Remember, Alabama was the first team out. And Alabama has themselves to blame. don't lose 3 games, and 2 of those games to unranked teams. Look, this has been the worst Alabama team since 2006. I mean, I'm telling you that 3-loss team in 2010 was very good because they brought back everybody from the national championship team in 2009. This team's got a lot of flaws, and I know that Alabama fans are griping and complaining that they should have brought into the college football playoff. Nick Saban really was pleading the case. I mean, why play a tough schedule if you're going to put a 1-loss Indiana and a 2-loss SMU in the college football playoff? Why play a tough schedule? You know, if that's the case, Florida should be in this thing at 7-5 because they played the absolute most ridiculously tough schedule in the history of college football. Anyway, that's my rant. But like I did every Monday, I would have my playoff projections. This is the bracket. Now here are my predictions. All right, so I've got Ohio State beating Tennessee, which means they would be set up for that rematch against Oregon in the quarterfinals. So that would take place, I want to say that would take place on New Year's. I got to actually, on New Year's Day. That would be in the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is always on New Year's Day, 5 o'clock, Ohio State, Oregon. Here we go again at the Rose Bowl. And then I got Notre Dame taking on Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. This is a rematch of the 1980 National Championship, which was played in the Sugar Bowl. Of course, these two teams have played each other in 17 and 19. Georgia ended up winning both of those games, which means I've got Notre Dame. They end up beating Indiana. And then I've got Penn State beating SMU to get to the Fiesta Bowl where they will take on Boise State. And I got Texas beating Clemson, and they will face Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. And if you're from Atlanta, I mean, I know some Texas fans that would be loving to get tickets to that. But, Arizona State, I'm not sure how many fans are going to make that trip all the way to Atlanta. I mean, I was kind of hoping that Georgia would be in the Peach Bowl, but that game is going to be New Year's Day, 1 o'clock. And really the only quarterfinal game that is on New Year's Eve is whatever game Boise State plays. They will face the winner of Penn State SMU, and I'm predicting it's going to be Penn State. So Penn State, Boise State. Here are my semifinal predictions, which is the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. And these games will take place on Thursday, January the 9th. That is the Orange Bowl. And Friday, January the 10th. So here we go. I've got Ohio State beating Oregon because I feel that Ohio State has the better roster. They lost to Oregon in Autzen by 1 point. I think that they will find a way to avenge that loss. So I've got them playing Texas in the Cotton Bowl, which this is practically going to be a home game for the University of Texas. I think that Texas is going to be heavily favored in this game. I mean, I'm not kidding. I think that the home field, well, they might be maybe a 4 or 5 point favorite in this. I got to see what FanDuel is going to say about this game because I got them beating Boise State. I got Texas moving on. I think Texas kind of figures things out. Penn State, I've got them. So I got Texas beating Arizona State. I got Penn State beating Boise State. Penn State and Georgia. I mean, this is a rematch of the 1982 Sugar Bowl. Also, they played in a New Year's Bowl, I think back in 2014 or 2015. I think that Georgia has the easiest path to the national championship. I've got them beating Notre Dame, and I got them beating Penn State. Even with Gunnar Stockton, I think that Georgia has the better rosters than Notre Dame and Penn State. And I feel that Georgia is going to get to the national championship. And they're going to have the easiest path. But they say it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I got Texas beating Georgia in the national championship. First national championship since the Mac Brown, Vince Young-led Texas Longhorns in 2006. So that's my college football playoff prediction based on what we know from the college football playoff, the 12 teams that were in it. All right, let's let's go bowling. We got some bowl games to talk about. Look, I know we're excited about the college football playoff, but I'm excited about bowl season. First of all, it's not a bowl game, but Mercer ended up getting the big win in the FCS playoffs over Rhode Island, 17-10, and they will face the almighty North Dakota State, 3:30 this Saturday in the quarterfinals. That's going to be a tough one because North Dakota State should have jumped ship to the FBS years ago, are gonna win another FCS national championship. This is what North Dakota State does. We're talking Carson Wentz. We're talking Trey Lance. They have had the dudes there in Fargo. And then a big shout out to Valdosta State getting the big win over Virginia Union 49-14. Ferris State ended up beating Harding 41-7. We've got Slip Rock over West Penn Cal, and then Minnesota State. Those Screaming Eagles, I'm just kidding. That was just from the TV show Coach. They took on Bernardigi State. So we've got semifinal matchups. Minnesota State taking on Valdosta State, 12 o'clock on ESPN Plus. And that's going to be this Saturday at Baysmere Hyder Stadium in Valdosta, Georgia, and then Slip Rock and Ferris State. And Valdosta State still alive for another NCAA Division II state championship. When is Valdosta State going to make the jump to FCS? West Georgia already did. I want to see more Valdosta State games on ESPN Plus. It seems like that's the only way you can get those games on ESPN Plus if you are in the FCS at least. All right, it is bowl season. Let's talk about the bowl games. We do have one more regular season game, by the way. Army-Navy this Saturday. And no, it does not have any playoff implications. Army's already locked into their bowl game. This is a regular season game, and I do apologize to anybody who served when I said on my show that it's just going to be a glorified exhibition game. Yeah, tell that to somebody that went to West Point or the Naval Academy. That game means more than anything. You ask somebody that went to West Point, they would rather beat Navy than win the American Conference Championship. I agree with that 100%. All right, let's go bowling. The first bowl game is the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl. South Alabama taking on Western Michigan. On Tuesday, December the 17th, we got Memphis taking on West Virginia in the Frisco Bowl. On Wednesday, December the 18th, Western Kentucky taking on James Madison. We've got California taking on UNLV. You know, I'm from California. I'm just going to call them Cal. Anyway, Thursday, December 19th, Georgia Southern taking on Sam Houston in the New Orleans Bowl. Yeah, that was the LA Bowl, by the way, California and UNLV. Or Cal and UNLV. All right, Friday, Ohio, Jack State. Those Gamecocks led by Rich Rodriguez won the Conference USA, and now they get to play in the Staff DNA Cure Bowl. You got Tulane taking on Florida. This is going to be fun in the Gasparilla Bowl. That's going to be on Friday. And then on Saturday, we have college football playoff games. Monday, we got Coastal Carolina taking on UTSA in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Northern Illinois taking on Fresno State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Christmas Eve, the Hawaii Bowl, always takes place on Christmas Eve. South Florida taking on San Jose State. And then December 26th, the day after Christmas, Pitt taking on Toledo in the Game Above Sports Bowl. Rutgers taking on Kansas State in the Rate Bowl. And then Arkansas State taking on Bowling Green in the 68 Ventures Bowl. Friday, December the 27th, Oklahoma, 6-6, taking on Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl. We've got Georgia Tech taking on Vanderbilt in the Birmingham Bowl. And then we got Texas Tech taking on Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl. We got Syracuse taking on Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. And Texas A&M taking on USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. Saturday, December the 28th, UConn taking on North Carolina, and not in college basketball. That is a bowl game. That's going to be at the Fenway Bowl. Boston College taking on Nebraska in the Pinstripe Bowl. Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns taking on TCU in the New Mexico Bowl. Iowa State and Miami in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Is the Pop-Tart mascot still going to go in the toaster like he did last year? All right, we got Miami, Ohio taking on Colorado State in the Arizona Bowl. East Carolina taking on NC State in the Military Bowl. This game is going to get a huge rating. BYU and Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. The fact that Deion Sanders got Colorado to a 9-3 win, a 9-3 season, he's going to be coach of the year. There's no doubt about that. Marshall is taking on 22nd ranked Army in the Independence Bowl. So do they come out with a new poll if Army does lose to Navy? Does Army drop out of the top 25? I'm still just convinced that that's a regular season game and it does have an effect on bowl season. But oh well. Iowa, Missouri, Monday on December the 30th in the Music City Bowl. We got Alabama taking on Michigan once again in a bowl game. This is the rematch of the semifinals in the college football playoff last year in the ReliaQuest Bowl on New Year's Eve at noon. Louisville taking on Washington in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. South Carolina and Illinois in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Baylor taking on LSU in the Texas Bowl. And then New Year's Day, we've got college football playoff quarterfinals. All right, January the 2nd, Duke and Ole Miss, both teams 9-3. They're going to be playing in the Gator Bowl. January the 3rd, boy, these bowl games, they just get well past January 1. I remember when I was a kid, all the bowl games would be on December 31st and January 1st. January 3rd, on Friday, North Texas and Texas State in the First Responders Bowl. Minnesota, Virginia Tech in the Duke Mayo Bowl. They give the coach the Mayo bath. Oh, it's disgusting. And then we've got Saturday, January the 4th, Buffalo taking on Liberty in the Bahamas Bowl. And that is the bowl schedule for 2024 and 2025. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, we got to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. We got to talk about what are they going to do with Kirk Cousins. Is it time to bench him? I think it's time to bench him because he is not winning you games. He is just costing you games with his poor decision-making, and you wasted $40 million on a quarterback. Congratulations. All right, you don't want to go anywhere. It is a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Introducing Gatorade Water. Alkaline and electrolyte infused for great taste. Gatorade Water, always in motion.
All right, we are back. We are back here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, episode 953, just in case you are keeping score at home. You know, Friday's show, I actually went over the hour because I had Philip Jordan on the show. Remember, I'm not on WQE anymore, so I'm not trying to fit the show to an hour. I will go as long as I need to. So let's go ahead and jump right into the Atlanta Falcons. Took on the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins goes back to Minnesota, faces his former team. This game was tied at 21. I thought we were going to get a shootout between Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. Well, Sam Darnold outplayed Kirk Cousins. He had 5 touchdown passes. Here's just grasp this for a second. Sam Darnold is on a 1-year contract making $10 million for the Minnesota Vikings. They weren't even projecting that he was going to be the starting quarterback. They thought that J.J. McCarthy was going to win the starting job. Sam Darnold has overperformed his contract. He had 5 touchdown passes in this game, and Sam Darnold completely destroyed the Atlanta Falcons. To make matters worse, the Buccaneers beat the Raiders, and now the Buccaneers are in first place, sole possession of first place in the NFC South. The Falcons go to 6-7, and I think it's over. I don't think the Falcons make the playoffs this year. I think you need to see what you have in Michael Penix Jr. I think it's time you play Michael Penix Jr. I'm not saying that it's over for Kirk Cousins because he's on a 4-year deal, but Kirk Cousins is costing you games. He himself is blowing games for the Atlanta Falcons. We already put up with this last year with Desmond Ridder. Now we're putting it up with Kirk Cousins. He's making $40 million. He is well overpaid. And the Atlanta Falcons are going to miss out on the playoffs again. Congratulations. I can't explain it. I mean, just some of the bonehead mistakes. Now, I don't want to blame it on coaching because this is Raheem Morris's first year. I actually blame it on the culture of Arthur Smith and the 3 years of mediocrity, going 7-10 back-to-back seasons, 7-9 in his first year, and the fact that we have not had stability at the quarterback position since Matt Ryan. I mean, who do the Falcons have after Matt Ryan left? When the Falcons traded Matt Ryan to the Colts, which he's already retired, he's in the Ring of Honor, but you had Marcus Mariota, you had Desmond Ridder, you had Taylor Heineke, and now you have Kirk Cousins. You drafted Michael Penix Jr. in the first round. Let's see what you got in him. They're not utilizing Kyle Pitts. The defense played awesome last week against the Chargers. Just the Vikings just torched that Falcons defense. And I think that Kevin O'Connell is coach of the year. Vikings are 11-2. I don't think they're going to catch the Lions. I think the Vikings will get the number 5 seed, but they could be I actually think right now, I think the Vikings are the second best team in the NFC behind the Lions, and they're in the same division. I think the Vikings are better than the Eagles. I think the Eagles, who actually struggled against the Carolina Panthers, they barely beat them, and so whoever bet on the Panthers to cover, well, good job, because the Panthers played a close game. And looking at some of these other scores, Dolphins ended up beating the Jets 32-26 in overtime. We talked about the Eagles barely getting the win over the Carolina Panthers. So what does that tell you? That the Eagles are leaving a lot on the table. Buccaneers 28-13 over the Raiders. Saints, they keep winning with their interim coach. They beat the Giants 14-11. You had the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Cleveland Browns 27-14. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars defeating the Tennessee Titans 10-6. In the later games, the 49ers beat the Chicago Bears 38-13 to snap a 3-game losing streak. And Kyle Shanahan was dialing up plays. Brock Purdy looked fantastic. The 49ers just dominated that first half, just outgaining the Bears and controlling time of possession. This was a wild game. The Rams beat the Buffalo Bills 44-42. And what a call by Sean McVay to roll the dice, go for it on 4th down when the Rams were up 38-35. I thought they were going to kick a field goal, but the way that Buffalo was moving the football, they just got to put it away. And even then, Buffalo forced the Rams to punt, and they could have had a chance to get the ball back. This was probably the most exciting game this season. Seattle beats the Arizona Cardinals 30-18 to take control of the NFC West. And then the Sunday night game, I don't know how the Kansas City Chiefs continue doing what they do. Matthew Wright, game-winning field goal. It hits the crossbar and goes in. When I say that the Kansas City Chiefs are the luckiest team in the NFL, I mean that. They are the luckiest team in the NFL. This team has got some flaws. They don't have strong tackles. Patrick Mahomes was getting beat up out there, but he just makes these incredible plays where you're looking at your TV screen, you're thinking, how did he do that? And I can't explain why the Chiefs just continue winning. It's the Chiefs culture. It's that repertoire that they have established from the 2 Super Bowls. And Patrick Mahomes just might go down as the most gifted, talented quarterback to ever play the game. I just can't explain it. And, Isaiah Pacheco coming back from injury. He is a hard-nosed running back that churns his legs. It's hard to tackle him. They missed that while he was out. They just happened to get DeAndre Hopkins. I've said on the broadcast, Travis Kelce's getting old. Travis Kelce is still situationally making the plays, especially when the Chiefs need it the most. And the Chiefs were marching down the field, and I thought the Chargers were going to stop them, hold them to a field goal, and now the Chargers have a shot to try to win the game. But the Kansas City Chiefs are a very smart team. I don't think there is a coach that knows how to control the play clock like Andy Reid. So what a win. All right. That was the NFL Week 14 recap. You see where I had that graphic? I actually like doing that rather than, go one by one with all the games. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, I'm going to talk NBA, college basketball. We got some huge upsets. And then I'm going to swing it back to the local sports to Columbus, to include Columbus State University, the Columbus River Dragons, and I'm going to recap high school basketball. You don't want to go anywhere. It is the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We'll be back after this.
Introducing Gatorade Water. Alkaline and electrolyte infused for great taste. Gatorade Water, always in motion.
And welcome back to the final segment of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. This is Monday's show. Don't forget that I'm going to have a show on Wednesday on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and YouTube channel. And then I'm also going to have a show on Friday. All right, let's talk college basketball because we had some huge upsets. Kansas is no longer going to be the number one team. They lose to Missouri. Last week, they lose to Creighton. Auburn gets a big 98-54 win over Richmond. And I think that they'll still be in the top five. They lost to a very good Duke team. They're 8-1. Auburn is getting ready to take on Ohio State this Saturday in Holiday Hoops Giving. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think right now, in my opinion, the SEC is the best conference in college basketball, especially when you have an unranked Missouri team that knocks off Kansas. Alabama's in the top 10. Tennessee is going to be the new number one when the new AP poll comes out. Even Georgia is 8-1, has got some votes in the top 25 poll. Right now, every single team in the SEC has a winning record. South Carolina is actually the worst team with a 6-3 record. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see how many teams get into the NCAA tournament from the SEC. Meanwhile, Georgia Tech, well, they fell to North Carolina over the weekend, 68-65. You had Kentucky ended up defeating Gonzaga 90-89 in overtime, and Marquette ends up getting the 88-74 victory over Wisconsin. All right, so the NBA, the Hawks played such a great game Friday night against the Lakers, 134-132 in overtime, and the Hawks were rolling. And then last night, they fell to the Denver Nuggets at home, and the Nuggets ended up defeating the Hawks 141-111. Nikola Jokic scored 48 points. There was really no stopping him. Hawks right now are 13-12, and they will take on the Knicks in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. This will not count towards the 82, but this is something to play for to try to win an NBA Cup championship and display that banner in State Farm Arena. Now, their next regular season game is going to be on Thursday, where they will take on Chris Paul, Victor Wembanyama, and the San Antonio Spurs. I do like this Hawks team. I think that if they get everything right, they should be the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I like the idea of making DeAndre Hunter and Bogan Bogdanovic role players because Jalen Johnson, even though he didn't play last night against Denver, Jalen Johnson is a future All-Star. Trae Young's leading the NBA in assists. Yeah, I really like this Hawks team. It's still early in the NBA, but when we talk about the Christmas games, this is what I really look forward to, is seeing the Christmas games. And we got a pretty good slate of Christmas games, starting with the Spurs and Knicks. I think that with Victor Wembanyama, and it's the Knicks. They always play that noon game on Christmas. I think that's got some superstar power to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing Victor Wemby actually on television, because I've yet to see the Spurs on national television. You got the Timberwolves and Mavericks, so that's the rematch of the Western Conference Finals last year. Expect Anthony Edwards and Luka to go off in this game. It's the Christmas game. All right, the Sixers are 7-15, but they got Paul George back. Can they start to rattle off some wins and get back to where they think they should be as one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, taking on a Boston Celtics team that is just all world? Once they get Kristaps Porzingis back, they are going to be unstoppable. And I really think that when you have high IQ players like Al Horford, Derek White is your fourth option. He's making big shots. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are really just two great combo guards that just complement one another. And then on ESPN, ABC, ESPN Plus, we got 8 o'clock, Lakers, Warriors. Warriors have struggled as of late, and so have the Los Angeles Lakers. They were 10-4, and now they are 12-11. That's just not going to get it done. And we also had the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns. That's going to be the 10:30 game later that night. So I'm excited about the Christmas lineup for the NBA. All right, let's go ahead and swing it back to the local stuff that we're going to talk about here on the Sports Beat. Out of Columbus, as you could tell, it was just a great weekend. Not only did we, perform high school game day at Otis Spencer Stadium for Carver in Appling County, but Saturday I called the Calvary Christian Shaw girls game. Thrift Behringer did the boys game, and it was a great milestone. Congratulations to Michaela Reed for picking up her 1,000th career point, and I was able to call that on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and it was a great moment. So congratulations to her. Shaw ends up falling to Calvary 48-45. The girls did. And then the Shaw boys ended up defeating the Calvary boys 46-40. So some of the other high school basketball games over the weekend, the St. Apicelli Vikings, they go to 3-0 after defeating the 6A Carrollton 61-44. Spencer is now 4-2 after getting a 51-42 victory over West Side. You had Columbus ended up defeating Chatco. Kendrick is 7-1 after defeating Greenville 66-51. Smith Station ended up defeating Hardaway 74-30, and Central fell to Southwest DeKalb 75-62. Also found out that Northside defeated Jordan as well, but didn't have an official score because, Max Preps wasn't updated. All right, Columbus State Soccer, congratulations to the Lady Cougars as they punch their ticket to the Final Four. They defeat West Florida on penalty kicks. It was scoreless. Going into penalty kicks, they win 4-3 on penalties, and they will play Minnesota State Montesco in the Final Four, which will take place this Friday, December the 14th, in Matthews, North Carolina, as Columbus State tries to get their first ever soccer championship in school history. Columbus State men's basketball, they pick up their first conference win in the Peach Belt Conference opener as they go to 7-1 on the season. They had a 61-60 victory over Georgia College out of Milledgeville, and they were led by Jared Adderton's 30 points. And the Columbus State Lady Cougars are now 6-2 on the season by getting a 64-60 victory over Georgia College. And they were led by Breland Snipes with 17 points and Alana Rawls, who had 13 points. The Columbus River Dragons split the two-game series with the Mississippi Seawolves. First, in Biloxi on Friday, they fell 3-1, and then they turned around and they defeated Mississippi 3-1 on Saturday at the Columbus Civic Center. The River Dragons are currently 32 points, second place in the Continental Division, just 1 point behind the Baton Rouge Zydeco. Well, this has really been a fun show. I just want to thank everybody that has made this show possible. But before I get out of here, there is another special team that I want to give a shout out to. And don't forget, I will have a show on Wednesday, so I'll try to cover down on any teams that I might have missed. But, this is really near and dear to my heart because I live in Midland. The Battle of Midland for the middle school football championship is going to be next Wednesday. Aaron Cohn against Midland. Cannot wait for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Here's what we got for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Today, we've got Glenwood and Brookstone boys basketball. Tomorrow, Thrip Behrens and I will be at Pacelli for Cristo Rey. Both Pacelli Vikings and Lady Vikings will be in action. And we have just got a slate of basketball games throughout the Chattahoochee Valley. Don't forget our Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC live show will be Wednesday, 6 o'clock. And then on Friday, I will be calling Spencer Brookstone. And Saturday, I'm excited because we are going to debut archery at Calvary Christian on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm really excited about just getting some ideas of what camera angles I want, what type of scoreboard I want to use. I'm really excited that we're going to support archery as the Calvary Christian Knights. They're going to be taking on some schools like Lafayette Christian, and I got to see exactly how many schools they're taking on, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, this has really been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Don't forget, you can download an episode on Apple Podcasts. I'm also found on Spotify and iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcast. And you can always watch this show on my Facebook page. Mondays and Friday shows, it's on the Sports Beats Facebook page. Wednesday show will be on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page. And I just appreciate all the support. And I hope that everybody has a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you Wednesday.